Well, welcome to UC Berkeley's scoping session for the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project. And this is for the environmental impact report for that project. And thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Kyle Gibson, the Director of Communications for UC Berkeley Capital Strategies. Capital Strategies brings planning, design, real estate, and construction services to the UC Berkeley campus. We are architects, landscape architects, planners, engineers, construction specialists, and administrative personnel, all of whom work together to serve the campus community. And tonight I'm joined by Senior Planner Raphael Brines from our Capital Strategies Physical and Environmental Planning Department. As we begin tonight, I want to clarify the purpose of a scoping session, which is to help notify the public that a lead agency, in this case UC Berkeley, is evaluating a project under the California Environmental Quality Act, commonly referred to as CEQA, and to solicit public comment regarding the type and extent of environmental analyses to be undertaken. A public scoping session is not a question and answer session. Rather, it is a forum for the lead agency to receive public input on a proposed project. The procedures for tonight's scoping session for the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project are as follows. After a brief presentation that provides an overview of the proposed project and an overview of the California Environmental Quality Act, we will then receive public comments on the scope of the environmental impact report for the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project. There will be a time limit of 2 minutes for all public comments, and all of the comments received tonight will become part of the public record. In addition to comments received tonight, all comments received by the deadline in the notice of preparation will become part of the public record. The deadline to submit comments is November 29, 2023 at 5:00 p.m. Comments can be submitted to us in writing by email to planning@berkeley.edu or by US mail, and we'll share that address with you later tonight. Please know that there is no limit to the length of written comments that can be submitted to us by email or US mail. However, they must be received by the November 29, 5:00 p.m. deadline. And now I'd like to introduce Raphael to give a brief presentation about the proposed UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project and the associated California Environmental Quality Act analysis and process. Raphael.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you all for joining us this evening. Again, thank you again for joining us this evening. My name is Raphael Brines, and as Kyle mentioned, I'm a senior planner in the Physical Environmental Planning Office for UC Berkeley. The university has put a tremendous effort into making this evening valuable to the public, and I'd like to stress that your participation has been and will continue to be paramount to making this project successful. The purpose of the scoping meeting is to gather input on what should be evaluated in the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, and an appropriate range of alternatives to analyze in the EIR. This process under CEQA is intended to ensure that both UC Berkeley stakeholders and the surrounding community have opportunities to not only review information relevant to the campus's work on the project, but to weigh in with meaningful participation. We are at the beginning of the CEQA process, and in addition to tonight, there will be opportunities for public involvement. Tonight, we'll present an overview of the proposed project, an overview of CEQA, and provide information regarding the EIR schedule and how to comment and participate in the CEQA process. The following several slides will introduce the Berkeley Innovation Zone project. The Berkeley Innovation Zone project is located outside of the campus park in the city of Berkeley in an area referred to as the city environs, and it's marked by a red star. This figure shows the location of the project immediately west of the campus park along Oxford Avenue. The project site is just under 2 acres and comprises 6 parcels highlighted in yellow that are all owned by UC Berkeley. The project site is bounded by University Ave to the north, Oxford Street to the east, and Addison Street to the south. And you can see the green lawn of the campus park, West Crescent lawn to the right, to the east. This slide shows the site as it exists today. University Hall is the most prominent building on the site, but the site also includes an annex, surface parking, and 2 commercial buildings. University Hall is 7 stories and was constructed in 1959. It and the annex are now vacant. The commercial buildings are city designated landmarks and include 2136, 2140 University Ave, which is known as the Ernest A. Herron building here to the left, and 2154, 2160 University Avenue, known as the Martha E. Sell building, which is to the right here where my cursor is. Both buildings are now leased to third parties and UC Berkeley affiliates and include office, retail, restaurant, and commercial uses. The surrounding properties include UC Berkeley's Anchor House student housing to the north, across University Avenue, the West Crescent, located on UC Berkeley's Campus Park to the east, the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive to the south across Addison Street, and private, residential, and commercial developments to the west. The project includes demolition of all the structures on site and development of 2 laboratory buildings and a vehicle parking garage, which we'll describe in more detail in following slides. The project objectives include supporting UC Berkeley's research mission, accelerating cutting-edge discovery and life science and climate research, providing an architecture distinctive project with high-quality materials, provide a sustainable project, which specifically includes all-electric buildings, and that the project will be designed to achieve or exceed a minimum LEED Gold rating. Other objectives include improving the public realm and streetscape, and to address deferred maintenance and seismic needs associated with the existing buildings. Project details. So the south building would be the smaller of the 2 buildings, with approximately 176,000 gross square feet and up to 5 above ground floors. The roof line of the south building, not including the mechanical space on the roof, would be a maximum of 100 feet above the sidewalk. And the north building would be approximately 310,000 gross square feet and would include up to 8 above grade floors, plus up to 4 above or below grade floors for parking. The roof line of the north building would not exceed 150 feet above grade or above the sidewalk. The garage would have up to 400 spaces, and a linear shaped courtyard would be located between the 2 buildings. The north building would be leased to a private developer and would house space for UC Berkeley's Innovative Genomics Institute, known as IGI, as well as other organizations for industrial, scientific, and technological research purposes. The south building would house space for research focusing on state-of-the-art climate technology. This is a site plan, and I would point out, obviously, there's the south building, the shared courtyard, and the north building. I would point out that delivery and loading to the west of the south building accessed on Addison, and this access would provide service vehicle and loading access to both buildings. Parking access to the north building will be from University Avenue, and pedestrian access to this building will be located on University Avenue and or Oxford Street. And pedestrian access to the south building will be from Addison and or Oxford Street. This slide shows building massing looking west from the campus park, with University Avenue to the north and Addison Street to the south. University here and Addison to the south, with Banff to across the street. The south building at 5 above grade levels and potentially 1 below grade level will be up to 100 feet. at its roof line, not including a non-occupied mechanical space at the roof that would be set back from the facade. The north building at up to 8 above grade floors for the laboratory use, plus up to 4 above grade floors for parking, could reach up to 180 feet at its roof line. There would also be a non-occupied mechanical room at the roof that would be set back from the building facade. The north building, as you can see, would not be taller than the 14-story anchor house building that is going up across University Ave. The building massing shown are the most conservative or largest buildings that could be built. This slide shows the massing of the north building looking south from University Avenue with Oxford Street to the left or east. Again, the roof line, not including the rooftop mechanical equipment, could reach 180 feet above the sidewalk to the west here, and then to the east, because there's an approximately 11-foot drop in slope from east to west, could be up to 169 feet above the sidewalk. This is a similar slide to the previous slide and shows building massing looking west from the campus park, again with University Avenue to the north, to the right, and Addison Street to the south. And you can see the north building in relation to the anchor house building that's up across the street. This is a typical floor plan shown in the north building. You can see office, research, and collaborative meeting space. We're going to switch gears now from presenting the proposed project to providing an overview of CEQA and the CEQA process for this project. Very briefly, in terms of CEQA, it is the state's premier environmental protection and disclosure law. CEQA was enacted in 1970 and requires public agencies to evaluate potential environmental effects of a project. The purpose of CEQA is to consider and disclose to the public and decision makers the environmental implications of their actions, to increase public understanding of and participation in the environmental review process, and to identify ways to avoid or reduce the potential significant environmental effects of these actions to the extent feasible through imposition of mitigation measures or project alternatives. Lead agencies must prepare an EIR for any project that may have a significant effect on the environment. And where the EIR identifies significant effects, they must also identify feasible mitigation measures to mitigate such effects. UC Berkeley is the lead agency responsible for preparing the environmental review for the Berkeley Innovation Zone project. Under CEQA, the lead agency is a public agency that has the primary responsibility for carrying out or approving the project. The university is both the project proponent and the lead agency. The EIR must be certified before project approval. The UC Regents would consider certification of the EIR before considering approval of the Berkeley Innovation Zone project. What is an EIR? An EIR is an informational document that discloses the significant effects of the proposed project on the environment, identifies feasible mitigation measures, describes potentially feasible alternatives to the proposed project. CEQA includes different types of EIRs for various situations and intended uses. Project-level EIRs are appropriate for specific development projects such as the Berkeley Innovation Zone project. Typically, project EIRs are prepared for construction-level projects and examine all phases of a project, including construction and operation, and evaluate site-specific impacts resulting from the proposed project. In this case, UC Berkeley will analyze all phases of the proposed project at maximum build-out. The EIR will include an evaluation of all the applicable environmental topics identified in Appendix G of the CEQA guidelines that are shown on this slide. As included in the notice of preparation, a preliminary study determined that certain issues where there is no potential for environmental impacts will not be included in the EIR. No significant impacts with respect to agriculture and forestry resources or mineral resources are anticipated, and these issue areas will not be evaluated in detail as part of the EIR. However, the scoping period is intended to solicit comments regarding the scope of the environmental analysis, so this is subject to change. The university kicked off the CEQA process several months ago by hiring an environmental consulting firm, Ascent Environmental. The consultant has been gathering information about the site and project and has begun its environmental evaluation, which identified that preparation of an EIR would be required. The university released the notice of preparation to prepare an EIR for the Berkeley Innovation Zone on October 30th, and a 30-day scoping period ends on November 29th. We are at scoping tonight, which is focusing on input on the scope of the EIR and not input on the project components. The university anticipates publishing a notice of availability with release of the draft EIR in the first quarter of 2024. At that time, there will be a 45-day public comment period upon release of the draft. The university will respond to public comments and anticipates publishing a final EIR in the second quarter of next year. Finally, the UC Regents will consider certification of the EIR before considering approval of the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project. This is only one of few opportunities to provide input in the EIR process. Additional opportunities include when UC Berkeley publishes the notice of availability with the draft EIR, and when UC Regents considers certification of the final EIR and approval of the project. Again, the purpose of this evening is to solicit community input on environmental issues studied in the EIR. All comments are important, an important part of the planning and environmental review process. Comments should include technical issues to address in the EIR and are most helpful when they focus on the potential environmental impacts of the proposed projects. Based on scoping project comments, the university may adjust the scope of the EIR as necessary. And all comments will be tracked and relevant comments will be addressed in the draft EIR. After tonight, we will continue to receive public comments through 5 p.m. on November 29th. You can email comments to this address, planning@berkeley.edu, or mail written responses to the address on the screen. Again, comments should include technical issues to address in the EIR and are most helpful when they focus on the potential environmental impacts of the proposed project. Thank you. That concludes the presentation, and I will now turn it over to Kyle.
Thanks, Raphael. So tonight there will be a limit of 2 minutes for all public comments received, and speakers may not give some or all of their time to other speakers. While there is a 2-minute limit for comments received tonight, please remember that there is no limit to the length of written comments that can be submitted to us either by email or US mail by the deadline of November 29, 2023 at 5:00 p.m. Please also remember that the purpose of a scoping session is to help notify the public that UC Berkeley is evaluating a project under the California Environmental Quality Act, and to solicit public comment regarding the type and extent of environmental analysis to be undertaken. A public scoping session is not a question and answer session. And now, if you would like to give public comment on the proposed UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project, I invite you to please raise your hand in the Zoom app. If you are participating by telephone via the Zoom app on your phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When I call your name or the last 3 digits of your phone number, I will unmute you on your microphone, and you will then have a 2-minute timer that will start when you begin to speak. When your 2 minutes have elapsed, I will mute you and then call on the next speaker with their hand raised. And with that, I'll begin with our first speaker, Cameron Dinesh. Cameron, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and you may give your comments.
Hello, my name is Cameron Donesh. I'm the head of the Historic Preservation Club at Berkeley. I'm reminded of a speech given by Steve Finicom, who sits on the Berkeley Landmarks Commission, who said that nobody thinks that there's anything special on San Pablo Avenue, but there are in fact some attractive buildings there that stand out and are worth preserving. I think the same can be said about this project because what we've got is University Hall, a hideous building overshadowing two beautiful small buildings which have been rightfully recognized by the City of Berkeley. I'm certainly not alone in believing that one of the university's missions as an institution of higher knowledge is to uphold the arts and history. But that's more than just old documents or books about such topics. It also means architecture with historic and artistic value, which we are blessed with here. It means not only big landmarks, but also smaller architectural heritage used by everyday people. I don't see why such priorities can't coexist with further university development. Therefore, I humbly suggest that the university consider the aesthetic and historical value of the Heron and Cell buildings in their EIR. I am not against this project in principle, but I hope the university respects the will of the City of Berkeley and works to preserve our dwindling historical resources, as developments just across University Avenue have successfully done. My club is open to working with them further on this issue and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. At this time, I'd invite anyone else that would like to give comment to please raise their hand in the Zoom app. If you raise your hand, I will then call on you to give comments. Currently, we don't have anyone else with their hand raised. Again, if anyone would like to give public comment on the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project, please raise your hand. Okay, one final call for comments. If anybody would like to give any comments on the proposed UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project, please raise your hand in the Zoom app. And that one comment will conclude today's online scoping session for the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone project. In addition to comments received tonight, all of the comments received by the deadline in the notice of preparation will become part of the public record. The deadline to submit comments is November 29, 2023 at 5:00 p.m. Comments can be submitted to us in writing by email to planning@berkeley.edu or by US mail. There is no limit to the length of written comments that may be submitted to us by email or US mail. However, they must be received by the November 29, 5:00 p.m. deadline. Please remember that all comments received before the deadline will become part of the public record. And this concludes our scoping meeting for the UC Berkeley Innovation Zone. On behalf of all of us at UC Berkeley and Capital Strategies, I thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I thank you for your comments. We hope that you all enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.